Good evening and welcome to the 571st episode of Travel It Radio. I'm Dan Schlossberg along with my friend and co-host Roger Noriega, and we're in the 13th season of Travel It Radio, the show that lets you enjoy the pleasures of travel from the comfort of your armchair.
Every week at this time, we talk to people representing destinations, hotels, airlines, railroads, car rental companies, and others in the world of travel and hospitality, from authors and bloggers to broadcasters and publicists. If it's got anything to do with travel, it's got everything to do with Travel It Radio.
And our guest today is Harding Bush of the Global Rescue Companies. Welcome, Harding, to Travel It Radio.
Thank you. Very, very nice to be here.
Thank you. Harding, all of us at Travel It realize travel of all types is on the increase. What accounts for that?
Well, the recent increase, we believe it all has to do with the COVID pandemic a few years ago. People were cooped up, pent up, and as soon as that ended, we call it revenge travel. He said, I'm not going to stay in my house anymore. I'm going to get out. I'm going to see the world. And, and since that ended, a few years ago, initially air travel was still difficult. It's starting to get a lot better. And also, the social media aspect of travel with, a lot of people going around the world taking pictures has, increased people's interest in places far away. And people, I think, realize that, pretty much anywhere in the world is at the most a day or two away.
Is it true that bolder, riskier travel is on the rise too?
It is. And I think, when you say bolder and riskier, you have to define risk. Where does risk come from? Risk comes from a combination of you, the traveler, and then the threats that are presented to you and your vulnerability to those threats. How are those threats going to affect you? And I think, people, they're definitely more security aware, concerned about safety, especially, during the COVID that kind of woke people up to that, if you will. So people are doing more research and preparation and doing things like getting global rescue in order to make their travel safety. They understand how to be less vulnerable. They'll do research, and it's, the streets in Bulgaria aren't lit. Don't drive at night. So they don't drive at night, those sort of things.
With wars raging in Ukraine and the Middle East, is terrorism the main concern of today's traveler?
Terrorism and war, they're both dangerous, but, there's some differences there. Terrorism is, indiscriminate or very discriminate attacks on the civilian population, where, war is two governments, two militaries, fighting each other with military targets. Obviously, there are collateral damages, but terrorism is more of a concern for people than war is, just because terrorism can pop up at any time at, not necessarily any place. Wars, unless they kick off when you're somewhere, we saw Ukraine developing. We actually warned all our members and stuff, don't go to Ukraine because that war kicks off. We may not be able to help you. We see, what's happening in other parts of the world where, you can see, we know that after the terrorist attack on October 7th, that it could escalate regionally, especially into southern Lebanon. And we saw that. We warned people, like, don't go to southern Lebanon or don't go to Lebanon, because if it kicks off, the airspace is going to close. It'd be very difficult to help you. So I think terrorism is higher on people's radar just because of the more unknowns about it than war is. People can avoid war more easily than terrorism.
Yes. You work for Global Rescue, which released a report called Summer 2024 Global Rescue Traveler Sentiment and Safety Survey. Didn't it show people are planning or taking longer trips than they did last year?
That was a marketing product. I'm familiar with it. I don't think it actually said they're taking longer trips. That's likely true because they're definitely taking more trips. And those trips are often focused around, more their number one consideration where they travel is, is they want to go to certain environmental areas. They want to go to mountains, jungles, desert, urban areas, things like that. And then almost tied with that in that survey is that they want adventure activities, at least from the people that took our survey.
Didn't nearly half of the respondents say they were eager to try new destinations?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Those destinations, that's one of the reasons for travel. They, new cultures, new places with new languages, things they haven't seen before. But that was right behind the willing, people that are in mountains want to go to the mountains. People that like the seaside want to go to the beach. They want to go somewhere they haven't been before. They may have gone to the beach in Spain. Now they want to go to the beach in Croatia. So, that's where we are with that. More, not necessarily exotic, but maybe less traveled locations are on the uprise. Mongolia. Mongolia has seen since 22 to 23, their tourist visits increased by 6 times. And, 23 to 24, it's up, 70% from the year before. It's been 500,000 tourists there. That's definitely off the beaten path. People don't go to Mongolia to sit on the beach. They go there to go horseback riding, motorcycle, dirt bikes, in the Enduro type stuff, overlanding, some more adventure pursuits.
Is it true, Harding, that a significant percentage also said they wanted to try more remote locales like Africa or Antarctica?
Oh, absolutely. And even outside of the survey, we're seeing a lot of desire to go to places that they haven't been before. We just have a relationship with a tour provider that's doing trips up the Congo River in between the Republic of Congo and the Central African Republic. And they contacted us. They said, how can you support safety of our travelers when they're, so that's an example of, going to more remote, interesting areas.
And how about that percentage? More than a quarter of people polled who said they were willing to take risks in travel.
Wow.
Yeah, they're willing to take risks because I believe they understand that there's risks involved, not necessarily war, terrorism, things like that. But there are, the more logistic requirements it is to get somewhere, they have to do more research. And they are doing more research. They're more prepared. They understand that, paragliding in India, first of all, they have to know how to paraglide, those sort of things. So there's different groups of people that are taking their interests, their hobbies to other spots in the world. Surfing in Tahiti, surfing in, one of our clients is a surf camp in Nicaragua, so.
Wow.
Yeah, there are definitely an interest in going to more remote places, doing more. It's why Global Rescue has no activity restrictions.
Talking with Harding Bush of Global Rescue.
War and terrorism are obviously big risks, but what are some of the other risks people worried about? Maybe getting injured or sick abroad?
Absolutely. The primary concern, according to the survey and according to my experience, covering the travel world, is that the people are most concerned with becoming ill or injured. And that is the most likely thing that's going to happen. You may run into a crime situation. You may run into, the Russians invading Ukraine, but people are going to get sick. They are going to get injured.
How many people participated in your survey? And is it an annual thing?
Yeah, our marketing department does it every year to kind of recognize trends. And we had 800 members fill out the survey.
Oh, yeah.
Complete the survey.
That's quite a bit. Your 2024 travel trends report mentioned YOLO. You only live once. That's not only the title of a James Bond movie, but also a new attitude by people who love to travel. Is that true? Along with that revenge travel line?
100%. And that's, think what it is people are like, doing the bucket list things there. And there's more opportunity to do that. There, those places are easier to get to than they've ever been. And, YOLO, like personally, I call it QDR, quality days remaining. If I have another 30 good years, I just added up, I've got 1,500 weekends. How many weeks is that? So I want to make the best of them, and I want to fill that with, exciting, interesting things. So people are doing fun. They're just not going to sit on the beach or sit at the picnic table at the campground. They're overlanding in Morocco. They're horseback riding in Mongolia. They're sea kayaking on the Arctic Circle, all sorts of fun stuff.
I'm gonna have to change my travel planning. I'm gonna have to consider it the way you're considering it. How many weeks are available? I
Right.
like that. Because I do have the bucket list.
Yeah.
4 out of every, and unfortunately planned for the next 7 or 8 years. But anyway,
Right.
4 out of every 5 potential travelers, according to your survey, said they were planning more frequent trips or maintaining last year's level. Can you explain why? Or enlighten us?
It's exactly what, we've just been talking about in the other question. People want to do more. They understand, things like COVID could happen and they won't be able to. And maybe the next one's not going to be 2.5 years. It's going to be 4.5 years. So people indicated in the survey that they're saying that travel experiences are more important than material things. So they'd rather do a fly fishing trip to Belize than get that new outdoor kitchen.
Wow. Yeah, I can see that change. That's interesting. Are disposable income and more free time the major factors in making travel decisions?
Yes, I think we've seen that. We've seen more people traveling. We've seen, the demographic that does those travelings are the people that have more disposable income. Obviously, there's people that are also traveling that don't necessarily have that. Kids might be taking a year off of school, people taking sabbatical from work, those sort of things. But the survey indicated that inflation wasn't changing people's mind from travel. Maybe they adjust the way they go or where they stay, or maybe they fly economy instead of, or they find options to still make the travel happen because it's such a priority now.
Do you find people are more likely to travel overseas or stay in our case, in North America?
Well, we have, our clients are all over the world, but international travel is up. People do want to go to places where, one of the things on the survey, I think number 3 was experiencing new cultures and new languages and new things. And while there are, you can do a lot of things you can do overseas in North America, it adds a little bit more interest to it when it's overseas, when you're in a foreign country.
Yes. How about cruise travel? Since 2020, for example, outbreaks of COVID and other diseases on cruise ships have been a black eye for the travel industry.
Big 2 black eyes, easily. The cruise ships took a heavy hit. And I think, I believe they're on their way back. I think their numbers are very close to pandemic numbers. And that number includes a lot more first-time people that are going on cruises. What we're seeing is there's a lot of the cruises that are more sort of exploration and expedition based. Like I said, the trip up the Congo River, or, going through up the coast of Alaska, things like that, where they're using the maritime platform of the cruise ship to get where they want to go. Like in olden days, it's not so much let's go sit on a boat and hit the buffet. It's like, let's go on a boat and have a maritime vacation and see other places and do other things.
I appreciate that. I myself am looking forward to one of those 14-day multi-stop and multi-off-boat excursions in Alaska.
Right. Yeah. Or where you see, you do the lap around Scandinavia, those sort of things, or down the Danube River and hit 14 different countries. That's 14 pins, man.
Yes, it is.
Good way to pin up the map.
You're right. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking with Harding Bush of Global Rescue.
And this is Travel It Radio, which we should probably call Travel It Video, with Dan Schlossberg and Roger Noriega. We're in our 13th season and approaching our 600th episode. We're live at 5 New York time every Thursday on LinkedIn, YouTube, WhatsApp, X, Twitter, and Facebook, among others. Harding, plane travel seems especially erratic these days, as you can see by this picture. Does your survey show people are worried about trips or at times being postponed or canceled?
Yes, I think that was, as far as concerns go, that was like number 4. And it's definitely more the case with business travel, for sure. And personally, With the vacation travel, maybe you can adjust a little bit more. On a business travel, you're gonna have to burn that travel into your weekend. I used to, if I had something to do on Monday somewhere, I'd leave on Sunday. Now it's like Saturday to get there a day before to ensure you get there, because there's been so many times where especially with travel within the United States, going between Boston and Dallas, if you're going through Philadelphia, a 1 hour delay at one place because of a weather thing can, back everything up. And then you run into problems with crew rest, and you end up staying in an airport or a hotel in Philadelphia, don't make it till the next day and have to adjust. It just puts you behind. So yeah, that is a concern. I think more for the business traveler than the recreational leisure traveler.
And Hardy, what about natural disasters like the 2 hurricanes that just devastated the Southeast? Our weather seems to be getting worse because of global warming, which has increased the intensity and frequency of major storms. Does that concern your clients?
Yes, I think that was pretty much tied, right in the middle with the concerns. A lot of that, though, these travelers understand how to mitigate that. Wildfires are a big one that we see. They pop up fast, but they happen in certain parts of the world during certain times of year, more often than not. So people can sort of plan around the threat. Go to the Pacific Northwest in the fall instead of the height of summer. Same thing with hurricanes. Hurricanes happen in certain areas more often than others, and there is a level of predictability. So you can say, I'm not going to go to the Caribbean between this time and this time, because people often make plans often a year out, so they can try to avoid those times if they can.
And we hear talk about the ugly American. Do travelers think about how they will be perceived in foreign countries, especially those that don't speak English?
Well, if they don't, they should.
Yeah.
And we think that, one of the things about going to different places is experiencing those cultures. And one of the things, it's important when you travel to understand the sort of the local customs and expectations of behavior. That varies from country to country. A lot of people, very whispery, very, demure. So people should, understand that. And it also makes, when they understand that, it can make them safer. Not sticking out like a sore thumb as a tourist and somebody that might be distracted and be a victim of crime. So that goes along with the preparation for travel, understanding the local culture and customs and sort of ways of life.
And speaking of crime, are they worried about being mugged and maybe losing their passports in addition to their money?
Oh, for sure. Crime is definitely a threat, but it's something that you can mitigate from, like we just said in the previous question, your behavior. You can, maintain a low profile, not go out by yourself, not go at night. Usually areas where there's high amounts of crime is areas to avoid. Those include, train stations, bus stations, places like that where all the criminals all do surveillance, and they're going to pick the easiest target. Don't be the easiest target. And that's what we're telling, when somebody calls up, hey, what do I do about, heads up, be aware, be prepared, know where you're going, at least look like you know where you're going, no fumbling, be streamlined, and be a hard target for crime. But,
Are Global Rescue clients worried about being kidnapped for ransom?
It depends where they go. Kidnap and who they are. Kidnapped for ransom happens in different parts of the world. I think it's more of a concern for business travelers. One of those things to, that's why travelers are often, cautioned to keep their social media profile very low, especially when they're not home or where they're going. Avoid specific dates. Again, that's a big surveillance. People have to do surveillance. They have to know you're going. They have to, measure what sort of a value you may have for a ransom situation. So the more vague you are and the more demure, the less chance of that happening is.
Tell us about Global Rescue Companies. When did it start? How big is it? And what does it do exactly?
So Global Rescue, we're a travel risk crisis management company. We're a membership organization. People and organizations, corporate entities subscribe to our services. And while they're traveling or anytime, we can give advisory services that include medical advisory, security advisory, intelligence advisory on trips. And this includes before travel, during travel, and all the way up to a medical evacuation if necessary, or security extraction or evacuation.
How does Global Rescue work with the U.S. Department of Commerce?
Well, our CEO and founder, Dan Richards, serves on the U.S. Travel and Tourism Board. That's part of the U.S. Department of Commerce, and that board, they advise Department of Commerce on different travel trends and information for the Department of Commerce to make decision-making information on travel policies and protocols or things that will help affect tourism in a positive way.
We're talking with Harding Bush of Global Rescue.
You may have mentioned this one just a moment ago, but is it fair to say your clients range from Fortune 500 companies and academic institutions to private companies and individuals?
Right. We basically have, three lines of members. We have the consumer members. Those are the individual travelers, the families that are traveling around the world, anything from adventure travelers to just people, going to a new spot, have a nice vacation. We have enterprise clients, our corporate clients. They range from financial institutions, university, journalism, faith-based organizations that want to ensure that their travelers are taken care of as they go abroad with the information they need to be safe. And the last channel is also, the tour providers, the kayaking company in Norway, or the company that's doing the river tours in the Congo, or, fly fishing at the exotic spots. All those people that have their guests come, they recommend Global Rescue for their guests.
With the World Series starting next week, we'd like to know if you also have relationships with professional sports teams.
Oh, for sure. In fact, we have the U.S. ski team is one of our clients, or the U.S. ski team is part of the United States Ski and Snowboard Association. So we support their travel needs, primarily medical. Before I was a full-time employee with Global Rescue, I did a contract assignment. I went to the 2018 Winter Olympics in South Korea as part of the effort to support the ski team as they traveled. We also have the LPGA, the Ladies Professional Golf Association. As they travel the world, they have Global Rescue Services. Any of them get sick, injured, we will get them evaluated, get them to the closest place where they can be evaluated, stabilized, and then all the way home. Of course, we pay for all those transport.
Wow, that's good to know. Thank you. Just a few days ago, there was an accident at a Colorado gold mine with many people trapped. Is that the type of thing Global Rescue might pursue? And do you need to be a client first?
That's a very good question. If that happened, I don't think we'd necessarily go in there and say, hey, we can help if there was members in there, or if that company, because that gold mining company would be responsible for that evacuation. Now, if they were a member, covering their workers, we certainly would get involved. We collaborate. Situations like that, the government usually comes in and takes control of the situation, and sort of runs the rescue effort. And we've seen things like that. We were involved in the 2010 earthquake in Haiti and the 2015 earthquake in Nepal, and then the flooding in Europe a couple summers ago in Central Europe, and other the wildfires in the Canadian Northwest. And we do have members that are there. Oftentimes when things like that happen, like the fires in the Yukon a couple summer ago, all the aviation assets are nationalized, and they're part of the effort to that. So we inject and we keep our members informed. We let the rescue personnel that know where they are, and so we are involved, and we get in and do what we have to, what we can, and we've been very successful with that. And during 2010 earthquake, we had a lot of faith-based organizations and study abroad students that were sort of isolated from the from the world when they were during that 2010 earthquake in Haiti, and
Yes.
we deployed people, medical and security people, to go down and locate them and get them the help they needed and get them back home.
It seems like you've given us examples already, so I'm going to skip that question. The name is Global Rescue. Does that mean anywhere on the planet? Like maybe Point Nemo? No, just kidding. What about rescues needed in North America?
Oh, all the time. Our member services agreement says anytime you're 100 miles from your home of record.
Wow.
And a few years ago, when COVID happened, people were doing things closer to home. We had we still have a program of field rescue where you're near home. You call us, we'll figure out where you are. We'll get you the help that you need. And anywhere in the world, our geographic exclusions are very limited. It's and this is just for evacuation. We'll still give advisory services, medical advisory, security advisory, but is above the 80th north parallel, which is there's only a little bit of land above that. There's part of Svalbard, which is part of Norway, and then below the 60th, which is just Antarctica. But I think as we talked about people wanting to go to more exclusive remote places, and Antarctica is included there. Perhaps as more people going there and there's more assets to support, that may no longer be an exclusion for us.
Wow, it's good to know, and I'm sure the members know themselves. Where's the home base of Global Rescue, and how many staffers does it have?
Our home base is in Lebanon, New Hampshire. We're originally founded in Boston, and we had operations was up in Lebanon, and business and sales was in Boston. About 2008, we combined up into Lebanon. We've got about 200 employees. We've got operations center in Lebanon, New Hampshire, operations center that covers the Caribbean in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and then we have the backside of the clock in Manila, Philippines.
Oh, okay. Simplest question of all: why that location?
Well, I'm going to tell you that it's the best location in the world. It has a balance of everything, and I think it does attract a lot of the people that we like to hire. There's mountains, there's rivers, there's lakes, there's just kind of. It's also our CEO and founders from the area, so that has, there's Dartmouth Hitchcock hospitals here, so there's great healthcare. We're still, depending on what time of day you go, we're about a little bit less than an hour and a half to Boston, to Logan Airport. Manchester has a good airport, so doesn't affect our global reach at all being in New Hampshire.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking with Harding Bush of Global Rescue. Dan?
Harding, tell us about Global Rescue's relationships with Johns Hopkins Emergency Medicine Division of Special Operations and Elite Medical Group.
Well, we have several doctors on our staff, and when somebody gets injured or hurt abroad, these doctors, and we also have paramedics as part of our team, they get involved. They give medical advice, sort of like in a telemedicine concept. And in order, it's Elite Medical Group holds those licenses for doctors. And then John Hopkins.
Go ahead.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So John Hopkins Special Operations Division. John Hopkins has centers of excellence around the world. They sort of vet and rate all the hospitals that have that acceptable standard of care, where somebody abroad has to go and they're going to get some decent care that they may not expect otherwise in those locations. So we have a relationship with all of those throughout the world. And then the Special Operations Division gives us access to numerous doctors with various specialties. So any of our members around the world that have something that comes up that a local doctor may not be able to handle, we have access to those doctors to get the information they need and make the decision. Do we take this person to South Africa? Do we take this person to France, or do we take them all the way home?
Is it true, Harding, that Global Rescue has been involved with just about every crisis that has come up in the last 20 years?
I think that's a fair statement, for sure, fair and accurate. involved somehow in everything. We didn't have a lot of members. The recent hurricane in North Carolina, we had calls from enterprise members or enterprise, corporations that had staff that lived in that area and that they hadn't heard from. They contacted us, and we assisted with the getting in contact with those folks. We've been involved in even places where, like in Sudan civil war, where there's been the airspace is closed, the borders are shut, but we definitely given advisory. We've even got people out of there with a maritime platform up to Egypt. So we usually do have some sort of involvement in every conflict, every natural disaster somehow. Even one of the recent the earthquake in Turkey, we were involved with some of the relief efforts with that. Not necessarily rescuing people. We didn't have any members that were there, but we were involved with relief efforts.
Global Rescue calls itself the leading provider of travel risk and crisis response. Yet there seems to be multiple companies involved, as the title is Global Rescue Companies. Could you give us some details about that?
Well, the Global Rescue Companies, we have Global Rescue, and then since we operate in different countries around the world, a lot of these regions and different countries have different requirements to do business there. So we are, licensed in a few different companies in order to have to do business there. In addition to Global Rescue, we have the Grid Systems, Global Rescue Grid Systems, which is a technology company. They develop our, the app that goes on your phone when you're a Global Rescue member that you can activate and talk directly with us, either for just general questions or an emergency situation.
Roger, you want to take the next one?
Yeah. Since Global Rescue is only 20 years old, we'd like to know how you got involved with it and what you did before signing up, if we may.
Sure. Well, I was, like we said before, I was a Navy SEAL for 20 years. I retired from that in 2010. And one of the, when we went to Iraq in 2003, my SEAL team was, hey, you're going to do the executive protection, the close protection for the interim Prime Minister Alawi. I wasn't really excited about that. It was an interesting mission, but, I would have rather been doing raids and ambushes.
Yes.
But at that point, security sort of became my life. I had a couple more deployments, Iraq, Afghanistan. I was in Chad for a while. I knew I liked travel. I retired in 2010, went into the corporate security. I was working for an oil company in Yemen, rotated in and out of that for 4 years. Meanwhile, I was also doing executive protection for various organizations and corporations around the world. And, also do vulnerability assessments, threat assessments, and security awareness training. I would do security awareness training for the State Department and other private corporations. In 2018, I'd always known what Global Rescue was and what it was about. And I was always interested because I knew it was in my neck of the woods. And I joined in 2018, our vice president of operations. I went to Norwich University with him. We're classmates. And, we often talk, back and forth, and a position opened and I jumped right on it. I travel enough. I'm not on the road like I used to be. And it's super, super interesting. You never know what country you're going to be dealing with or what issue, from day to day.
It sounds like it. On a personal note, since you've been in many parts in the world, is there any particular one that you find more attractive? And I mean general environment, maybe, forest, desert stuff. Is there anything that might attract you more, you personally?
It's a close tie with mountains and ocean.
Okay.
I'm a big skier,
Yeah.
mountaineer. I live in New Hampshire because I'm a skier. Cross country, downhill, telemark, everything. So I like the mountains. My big trip last year was skiing in Switzerland
Wow.
at the back of a business trip where I went to Greece and did a vulnerability assessment for Global Rescue at a university there. It's one of the things people are tagging leisure travel onto the back of business trips. So
Excellent. Now with the skiing, do you also do The surfing?
I do a lot of ocean kayaking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
No,
and
that's cool.
sometimes there's some surfing involved with that. Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate it. That's good to know. Is there anything you would like to add?
No, I think Global Rescue it's a great service. If you're traveling, you need to think about it. It'll make you safer, more aware. We wish that more of our members would call us up and say, "Hey, I'm going on this trip. What can you tell me about it? How do I be safer?" And it's a great place to work. I enjoy it. I'm very lucky to do what I like and live where I want to.
Dan, before I turn it over to you, your website.
GlobalRescue.com.
Easy enough.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, our guest today has been Harding Bush of the Global Rescue Companies. Thank you for being our guest on Travelers Radio. Great show.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
We did too. And this is the 50th anniversary of the home run that broke Babe Ruth's record for Hank Aaron. This is also your chance to share the excitement with my new biography, Home Run King, the remarkable record of Hank Aaron, featuring a foreword by Dusty Baker. It's a 265-page hardcover that explores Aaron's contributions as an athlete, but also as an advocate for civil rights. That's Home Run King, the remarkable record of Hank Aaron. Get it today on Amazon.com. And that's it for this edition of Travelers Radio. Next week, same time, same place, same writer. We'll learn about the Harley-Davidson Motorcycle Museum in Milwaukee. Now, this is Dan Schlossberg, along with my friend and co-host Roger Noriega, saying thank you for your time this time. Until next time, good night and stay safe.